decide. Gotta be certain, like the blackbird flying in the night. What's he looking for? Searching for the way, even though the road is hard. Gotta be certain. It's a typical dream that's never ending, burning inside of us all. Gotta follow the stream and watch it bending through the dark years. Don't you stray away from a dusty road. Just keep it going on, even though the road is hard. Gotta be certain. Lots of people who are gonna put you down. Does it bother you? Don't let them change your mind, even though the road is hard. Gotta be certain. It's a typical dream that's never ending, burning inside of us all. Gotta follow the stream and watch it bending. Typical dream that's never ending, burning inside of us all. And keep your feelings on the move when you know the fight is over, and you can tell them all. If you wanna get where you're going, don't get lost on the road. Tell them all. If you wanna get where you're going, don't get lost on the road. now. Gotta burn a healthy load. Loneliness forgotten. Now I'm back on the road. Gonna keep my feelings moving. Gonna keep it going on. Leave the things forgotten. Won't get lost on the road.
To Halika, usap tayo. We will be starting the program in a few minutes. My name is Claudio Lopa. I'll be your host for this morning. I'm an Ateneo de Manila University graduate, and I currently work as a host, but also as the head of marketing for the Magna Anima Teachers College in Laguna. I also work with youth empowerment programs. I'm also a consultant for Caritas Philippines. And I work with Father Tito Caluag, for those of you familiar with him, and his many programs. So we'll be beginning in a few minutes. Please get comfortable, relax, listen to the great tunes that are playing, and we'll be with you in a bit. Thank you.
Carry on, bear the heavy load on a dusty road. Got to win the race, even though the road is hard. Gotta be certain, like a blackbird flying in the night. What's he looking for? Searching for the way, even though the road is hard. Gotta be certain. It's a typical dream that's never ending, burning inside of our soul. Gotta follow the stream and watch it bending the dark years, but don't you stray away from a dusty road. Just keep it going on, even though the road is hard. Gotta be certain. Lots of people are gonna put you down. Does it bother you? Let them change your mind, even though the road is hard. Gotta be certain. It's a typical dream that's never ending, burning inside of us all. Gotta follow the stream and watch it bending. Typical dream that's never ending, burning inside of us all. Gotta follow the stream, yeah. And keep your feelings on the move when you know the fight is over. And you can tell them all. If you wanna get where you're going, don't get lost on the road.
Hello, good morning again, everybody. We'd like to welcome everybody that just joined. Once again, my name is Claudio. I'm your host for this morning. And we would like to thank also Dr. Hani Carandang for taking the time to join us today. As it is, it's 10 a.m., so we're actually just about to begin. If we could ask that everybody stay at attention we'll be doing the national anthem. And we also request that everybody keeps their mics muted, please. Thank you.
Tuyang ka ng magiti sa manlulupi, di ka pa
May we ask that everybody pause for a moment for the invocation.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord God, we gather today in your name, seeking guidance and wisdom as we deal with mental health issues that we face nowadays. Grant us the courage, acceptance, and discernment as we engage in a meaningful conversation in an effort to grow closer as a community. We thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed upon everyone gathered here today. Help us to realize how thankful we are to always have your divine presence that accompany us each day. We pray for guidance, strength, and comfort. We pray for those who feel lost, hopeless, miserable, those who are suffering from anxiety, and those who are mourning for their lost loved ones. Fill us with your grace so we can be reminded that all that we do and accomplish is for your greater glory and the service of humanity. Help us to grow in peace and understanding with one another. Bless our families, friends, teachers, students, and co-workers with the gifts of kindness, patience, love, and respect. Father, we bring these prayers and the prayers that we hold in our hearts. We ask all of this in God's name. Amen. Miriam of Nazareth, teach us your ways and lead us to Jesus. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you to Miss Wilma Tolentino, Grade 9 Parent Representative, for leading the invocation. Now, may we welcome Miss Mary Rose Peña, President of Miriam College's Family Council Executive Board, to say a few words.
Good morning, parents. Thank you for making time to join us in our webinar. Halika, usap tayo. This school year, the High School Family Council organized activities that aim to care for our community in these challenging times. First, we took care of our community's physical health with a project #VacToMC, a collaborative activity with the Miriam College administration and various departments, alumni, the High School Family Council, and the Quezon City LGU. At this project, we vaccinated more than 300 students and their family members. Next, we took care of the mental and emotional health of our teachers through the webinar Distress or De-Stress by Dr. Joan Rifarial, an adult psychologist. Then we also treated our teachers on their special day, Family Day. We also attended to the mental health of our high school students, our daughters, more particularly on social media. At the webinar, Digital Truth, MCHS alumna and social media strategist Sofia Kyoge aim to transform our students into effective social media users and, more importantly, social media agents. To complete our circle, today we take care of you, our parents. The past 2 years forced us to ride the roller coaster of life. And until now, we are caught with so many twists and turns. This morning, we are pausing the ride and take time to breathe. More importantly, we take time to talk. This morning, we are happy to pause and listen to one of our favorite voices of reason, Dr. Carandang. At the end of this session, we hope to get out of the whirl of life and get back a sense of our true selves. Then we will not just be forcing ourselves to ride the roller coaster of life, but make our lives one beautiful ride. Kaya, umpisahan na natin. Usap tayo. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Maros. So, before we formally introduce our speaker for this morning, as you all know, I mentioned earlier, I do work in educational development and I've worked with a lot of learners, specifically in the public school sector. And as such, I've learned that mental health is of the utmost importance. And that's not just because it's one of the latest ping words or trends that we see now on social media, but it really is a large factor that affects their learning experience and their lives. So and we also learned that the family is foundational to their growth and to reaching their full potential. Given all of these things, it can be a lot of pressure for a student, but it can also be a lot of pressure for the family. And given these unprecedented times of a pandemic and the surge of the internet, the pressure seems even greater. It's a good thing then this morning that our guest is an expert in mental health, family, and trauma, and all of these things that we need to be discussing. And also, she wants to know how you're doing, how your kids are doing, and how your family is doing. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest. Distinguished in her field, Dr. Hani Carandang is a national social scientist and the first ever outstanding professional of the year for psychologists by the Professional Regulatory Commission. She was recognized as the most outstanding psychologist of the Psychological Association of the Philippines and the most outstanding alumna of the University of the Philippines Social Sciences and Philosophy. The Ateneo de Manila honored her by awarding her Doctor of Science honoris causa. She has pioneered in family therapy, play therapy, trauma management, and mindfulness practice and training. She is currently a practitioner and teacher of mindfulness, having received intensive training from Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh and also trained in the MBSR program of Jon Kabat-Zinn and the teaching of the Dalai Lama from the University of Massachusetts in Boston. She is the founder of the MLAC, or Mindfulness, Love, and Compassion Institute, and founding chair of the Philippine Association for Child and Play Therapy. She's a best-selling author of 13 psychology books. She held vital positions that created strong socio-humanitarian impact. She was the former president of the Psychological Association of the Philippines, chair at the Ateneo de Manila University Psychology Department. She headed research and intervention programs for street children, abused children, family violence and healing, trauma disaster, OFW families. She was also involved in projects with UNICEF, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, the International Catholic Child Bureau, and a trauma consultant for the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime. But perhaps most important and her qualification that makes her best to speak this morning is that Doctora is a mother. She is a wife. She is a grandmother. And so here she is today to talk to you about mental health during these times. Ladies and gentlemen, Doctora Hani Carandang.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our forest sanctuary, where you can see the trees being blown by the wind. You can hear maybe a dog barking, the birds tweeting, and some people walking. So it's going to be a very casual conversation we're going to have today. Okay? It's very important that we are also relaxed in this nature sanctuary, so it will be easier for us to talk about a topic that is not so easy to talk about and still has a stigma to it. Okay, the topic is very timely and very necessary for us to talk about during this pandemic because it still carries a stigma, and we'd like to do something so that it's not so difficult to talk about it. The topic I'm referring to is mental health. If you know and you know, for example, that I can tell you easily that I have a stomach ache or I have a high blood pressure, but I cannot say very comfortably that I have a depression or I have severe anxiety. And when you're absent from your work, what do you say? I am sick, I have a high blood pressure on my heart, etc., and I have a stomach problem, but you don't say I'm emotionally indisposed. Very difficult to say that. We accept and easily, comfortably say we have physical illness, but it's always very, very difficult to say that we have mental health problems or issues. Okay, so that is why it is so important to have this conversation about mental health. To have this conversation, it's not a formal lecture, but a conversation. So I invite you to converse with me, because having conversations like this is one of the best ways to remove the stigma that goes with our topic, which is mental health. Okay. It's very interesting that we are here now, because before the pandemic, there was no need, maybe, or very little opportunity and very little urgency even to talk about mental health concerns. But if you will notice, during the pandemic, we have been forced to confront what's happening inside us. We have now liberty, freedom to go out, to distract ourselves, to shop, to go to a movie, and do all those things that distract us from looking within and seeing what's inside ourselves. So therefore, it was easy not to look at our concerns, and it was easy not to look at mental health issues. Okay. So I'd like to say also that this prolonged pandemic has caused prolonged anxiety because of the uncertainty of the situation. Of course, we're getting better now, but uncertainty always leads to anxiety. So sometimes I say it is normal to be anxious during these abnormal times. But then if you are too anxious and you can't be comfortable and you can't function, then we need to also talk about how to deal with that. Okay? So to begin, I'd like to put us all in the same page by giving some definitions of mental health that comes from the World Health Organization, just to start. So we're in the same page, okay? WHO states that mental health, and I will quote, is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of infirmity. I will make a note about that later, because, well, now I think they're missing a very important aspect of the mental health, which is emotional. It says physical, mental, maybe they put it in under mental, no? But I'd like to specify emotional well-being, because for me, the emotional aspect of the person is probably the core of mental health or well-being, or the reason for not having any state of well-being, okay? So another quote or definition also from WHO, it says that mental health is a state of well-being in which everyone realizes their own potential, they can cope with daily stresses of life, they have work productivity, and they can make a contribution, or they make a contribution to the community. That's another definition to think about. Okay, now saying that, let's talk about mental health awareness. I think that's important, no? What is mental health awareness? It is recognizing that mental stress is as real as physical stress, and mental illness is as real as physical illness. Okay, I'd like to tell you this so we see how the stigma of mental health has been there for the Philippines for a long time. The mental health law, internationally, there is a mental health law in every country. The mental health law in the US was passed in 1946. The mental health law in the UK was passed in 1959. The mental health law in the Philippines was passed only in 2018. And it was a very difficult, arduous, long process. I was part of it for a little while. And that also just shows you that as a country, we have not been giving enough attention and national significance to mental health. And that mental health still carries a stigma, which carries with it shame and embarrassment. Think you know what I mean, okay? So, but the pandemic has forced us to look and to face our mental health concerns, to look at our anxiety, to accept our feeling of lack of well-being, and to look at three things that are commonly seen as the concerns in mental health, no? Anxiety, depression, and PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, these are the three most commonly brought out mental health concerns during this pandemic. Okay, let's ask ourselves first, let's pause and ask ourselves, what have I realized about myself during this pandemic? Go inside yourself and just ask that question. Also know that around us are very urgent events happening and invading our lives, whether we like it or not. For example, our toxic politics, the social media, fake news has been impacting on us whether we like it or not, and that is also part of our anxiety, and we can no longer deny these concerns. In fact, I think in terms of our toxic politics, we should not deny it. We should be actively helping the country in that realm. No, it's okay. Anyway, this has forced us to look within and to be aware of what's happening inside us. Okay, let me give you some examples of why, or to show that mental health still has a stigma. There is this actual case of a school, a very high standard school, where what happened was, I'll just make the long story short, what happened was the golden boy, president of student council, captain of basketball team, and mentor and idol of almost all the students. It was just ordinary day. There didn't seem to be anything going on, but one day he just shot himself and killed himself with a gun. Wow, you can imagine, or you cannot imagine, the shock of the entire school community, the parents, the students, the teachers, the staff, and everyone was totally shocked. So the emotions were so intense, and there was also a trauma, no, that happened there, and it was so devastating for everybody. But what was the problem there? What's wrong with that picture? Turns out that this boy, who's mentored so many of the other students, was a leader, would once in a while post a picture where he put the gun like this on his head, but he only showed it to 3 people who were very, very close to him, 3 friends, and they swore that they would not tell any other person. And they promised this. So it went on for some time, many months, and then they were keeping it a secret. They were just talking about themselves, and then he suddenly killed himself. The question is, how come they couldn't approach any adult? A teacher, a guidance counselor, a parent, a adult, I mean anyone else except the 3 of them. So it was really difficult to talk about this concern, the depression of this person. It was difficult to talk about it to other people, so it was a secret. So that shows you there's that stigma, that embarrassment, that lack of comfort to talk about mental health issues like this. No? So emotions are very intense now, and later I will give some tips, or very practical tips on how we can handle these intense emotions. But now I'll just mention the practice that I do, or help shared with people how to handle intense emotions. And it is the practice of mindfulness. mindfulness means being aware of what's going on inside you and around you, and knowing the impact of your behavior and your action, and knowing how you are feeling, knowing your emotions, owning them now, the present moment, non-judgmentally, just accepting them. That's the Western definition. The Eastern definition adds something. The same thing, now being aware of what's going inside you, around you, at the present moment, non-judgmentally, and warmed by kindness. That's the difference. No? There's the dog barking, but don't mind it. Okay, so let me go back to mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches us to respond and not to react. To react means emotion, action. To respond means emotion, pause, action. So you are sure that your action after the pause is of a better quality than if you just reacted impulsively. So that's one of the key practices in mindfulness practice, which I can talk about later, but will not elaborate because I'll just expect you to ask questions if you're interested in that. Okay, so another concern I'd like to bring up, which affects our mental health, is the social media, the fake news. For the adolescents I worked with, because this group may be composed of different ages right now, no, your group. So one of the most maybe striking experiences we've had is the result of bashing in social media. You know? Bashing in social media has been shown to connect or relate to, or maybe even cause depression and suicidal attempts or suicide among adolescents, because it cuts very deeply inside. When you are bashed, I cannot explain the emotion because I've been trolled, is that you're really insulted to the core of your being. And if you're a young person, you carry it with you and you start to question your own worth, who you are. You start to question yourself, and you feel you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough. All those things happen inside the person who is bashed in social media, and I've handled a lot of cases like that in the past maybe 10 years or less, no? And then the social media has the other side. Aside from the bashing, there's the side which is the opposite. For example, I saw a family, let's say on a Tuesday. They had 4 kids, and the 2 were depressed, and the youngest was suicidal. So they were very, very sad, very heavy mood, and really, really feeling so low about this, no? And then the next day, Wednesday, somebody told me that they had posted a picture in Facebook, and they were all so happy, as if they were the happiest family in the world. And I knew that that was not true. That's another thing that FB did, no, or maybe FB does, is that people post things that they want other people to see about them, which are the good things about them, the positive things. You know, we're happy, we're on the beach having this exotic food, etc. But what they do not post is the other side of them, which is that they are depressed, maybe they're sad, or they're fighting. The dark part is hidden. And that is that's very dangerous, not just because people will see something that is not true. You cannot be authentic. You have to post only half of you, a part of you, but hide another part of you, which is important to be whole, which you deny. And if you do it habitually, you start to deny or repress or really not look at that part of you. So you're only looking at the part of you. And that kind of behavior actually erodes your energy, even if you don't know it. It's very tiring to try to be who you are not. That's why one of the qualities of well-being and good mental health is to be able to be authentic. Authenticity is an important aspect of good mental health. Okay? So, but since this conversation, by the way, is a conversation. I will leave time for your questions because that's always the most important part of anything that any input that I have or any webinar that I do. No? So let's have that time together, make it long. So I'll cut this short and just suggest some concrete steps that will help us take care of our mental health. Because there will be many questions about the previous thing I said, but I'll leave that to you. I would encourage you and urge you to please ask your questions because this will be a very fruitful conversation, okay, about something that's not easy to talk about. Let's take advantage of it, okay? So the first thing that the first step maybe I would say is listen to your body. Your body signals. Your body tells you that there's something wrong, that you're something you have to pay attention to. If you have pain in the neck, who is your pain in the neck? Pay attention to that because your body, the part of your body that aches, maybe it's your stomach, your back, it's a very important part of your body because it signals and tells you to focus on something that's going on that you have to give attention to that you are not paying attention to. So the body stores our stress, our trauma, and so the body speaks very eloquently. No? So it's like a friend. A pain in the neck or a pain in your ASS is like, this is a conversation, right? It's like a friend. Consider it a friend tapping you on the shoulder. Hey partner, hey dude, listen, I'm telling you something, you have to pause and maybe you have to rest a while because, you don't just go on and then collapse. So pay attention to that and give it time, attention, and care, even for a few minutes. It will help you not to burn out. Okay. And then take small breaks regularly during the day. It's very, very important because sometimes we take a break when we're already very, very tired, and when you have done everything and we're so tired, we need to take a break. That is not a healthy kind of taking breaks. Taking breaks means you reserve time, maybe 2 times during the day, morning and the afternoon, to just pause, breathe, and rest from what you're doing. Get out of the computer, walk a little bit, breathe, go to the CR, wash your hands, just rest. That's very, very important. And you have to schedule it. Because if you don't schedule it, it will not happen. You will go on and work until you burn out. Okay, take small breaks and reserve the time for these breaks. This has helped so many people I've talked to. And of course, there is also the digital detox. Get out of social media. Take breaks from social media. That's very, very important, okay? And I think it's important that you are in an organization. People I'm talking to belong to certain organizations right now. So it's important that the whole organization realizes the need to take breaks. In fact, I asked one organization and they've done it to have a poster, and in the poster it says, rest is a moral obligation. Why? Because if you don't rest, not only do you feel a lack of well-being, but you also become irritable, easy to anger, and you are not pleasant to people, so you make other people miserable. That's why rest is a moral obligation. You owe it to yourself and the people around you to rest so you don't bring out your irritability, your bad mood, and project it onto them. So it's important. It's also recognized and valued by the whole organization, not just 2 people or the people listening now. Okay. Another one, and I don't know how you can do this, but at least 3 organizations before and after, during the pandemic, have done it. You can create or have, I don't know, this is now digital, but a breathing room. A breathing room is a quiet room where people can go to any time to take a break. For example, you're very, very tired, you just finished a project and you're supposed to do another one. You go to that room, it is a clean, pleasant room with throw pillows, maybe relaxing, and maybe art materials, and then it is accepted in the whole organization that this breathing room is important. And when you go there, you are taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your productivity, you're taking care of the people around you. So that it is a good thing. You are not labeled crazy or whatever because you go to that room. It is a good thing because you are valuing what is necessary in being able to be productive. Okay. Another thing is, and I found this to be so helpful, go into the arts. You know, do some drawing, painting, music, dancing, expressive arts, no? Drama, creative cooking, anything creative. The creative expressive arts has been one of the most important venues for mental health. And many people will attest to, you know, my teacher, for example, my art teacher a long time ago, when his wife died, he said for the whole year that he was grieving, he was painting every single day. And that is what made him survive. So why are the arts so important? And let me tell you the dynamics of it. It's very important. When we are overwhelmed by outside forces like the pandemic, the toxic politics, all these demands on us, we get disempowered because all these events, people, etc., have power over us and overwhelm us. So we become powerless. Okay, now when you get into the arts, you go inside yourself, your truth, your beauty, whatever you want to express, you bring it out into the outside world, give it form, and impose it on the outside world. It's the opposite process. Outside world imposes on you and disempowers you. Art empowers you because you impose it and bring it out in the outside world and give it form. It doesn't have to be beautiful art, but if it's beautiful art, that's still a plus. You know? But that dynamics, that kind of dynamics of being empowered by your going from inside you to the outside world is essential during this time of pandemic and all the toxic things happening around us, so that we will not be feeling disempowered and feeling helpless in the midst of all this. So that's very important. No, okay. Creative arts is always empowering. They also, another thing that happened is that helped some organizations and families is they post reminders, no, slogans like, oops, did you breathe? No, somebody painted a beautiful poster, breathe. Just breathe. Because when you breathe, your body starts to relax and you pause and you don't act impulsively. Okay? So, another one, not so often done, but maybe just a suggestion, in your organization or family or school, have a list, a ready list of professionals that you can refer to when there are mental health problems in the school or in the organization or in the family. So you can refer when you can no longer handle the emotional situation. Okay. There are many things I need to say, but I will just say one more thing. Very important in mental health and our well-being is be kind. Be kind. No? A wise teacher said, in the family, there's always something to forgive. There's always something that's happening. Every day there's something to forgive. And if you have a choice whether to be right or to be kind, always choose to be kind. But also be kind to yourself, and so you can be kind to others. No? So you build a caring community with kindness. And that is essential because as Filipinos, we need support systems. We need to know that we belong to the organization, a sense of belonging and not being an outsider. It's essential that we have the support system. It's essential that you are not alone. As I keep saying, hindi ka nag-iisa. You are accompanied. I will end with Pope Francis, what Pope Francis said to that little girl in Leyte when she told him about her problem in the family. Pope Francis said to her, I cannot take away your pain, but I will be with you with my open heart. I will accompany you. So I think I will end there so that you have more time for your questions, which I will eagerly await. And thank you for listening. And it's my turn to listen to you and your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Carandang. That was a truly inspiring recorded video. And the barking dog in the background took nothing away from you because what you said was very powerful. Some things that I wanted to that I took away from that specifically were, as a millennial, I also deal with the anxieties that come with social media. But I think breaking the stigma even on social media is such an important dynamic to explore. Why is it always just the happiness that we're putting up there? Why can't we be honest about when we're struggling as well? And why is it that when people post about struggling, everybody goes into panic mode instead of actually reaching out? I don't know. How do we make that more of a norm? And also your suggestion to in the situation where you're choosing between whether you are right or to be kind, to just choose to be kind. What a powerful sentiment. Because most of the time, especially in this time of fake news, we'd really rather just be correct and say what the facts are. But, kindness really is a transcendent act. Those are just some powerful things that I took away from your video. Thank you so much for that, Doctora. That being said, if we can maybe also pin Doctora's video, because we're going to open the floor now for the question and answer portion. As many of you actually already know, because we have quite a few questions that have been sent in already. You can send in your questions, whether it's through the live stream chat on YouTube or however else the chat box was prepared for the question and answer portion. And we'll be going through them, choosing particular questions and reading them aloud for Doctora to read. While we're waiting for Doctora Honey, we would like to thank again everybody for joining. Once again, I'm Claudio. Hello. Hi. How's everybody feeling this morning? I hope you're having a nice Saturday morning, and I hope that you also enjoyed the talk of Doctora Honey as much as I did. On a personal note, I wanted to share that actually her first example of that young man and he was really a model of his school and of his community. He was actually a good friend of mine, and he's quite a bit younger than me. The tragic loss of him was during his high school senior year, and everything she said was true. Everything Doctora said was true. He really was a model student. He was a model citizen. I mean, he was a good basketball player. He was a good friend and a good son. And it was truly a loss. And that's why I feel strongly about mental health awareness, about breaking the stigma, about being open to speak about mental health. And that's why also I really admire Doctora Honey. This is actually not, I don't know if she remembers, but this is not my first time working with her. She was also guested on one of the shows that I helped produce for Father Tito Kaluwag. It's called Journeys of Hope. It's where he talks to people who have stories of hope. And Doctora Honey was amazing during that show as well. She shared a lot of the similar insights about the state of mental health awareness here in the Philippines, but also just stories of how she herself dealt with mental health as a whole. And another strong point that she brought up was listening to your body. I think that we don't listen to our bodies enough, especially because we're so focused on work and focused on taking care of our families, especially you parents. I can't even imagine the amount of stress that your body must be undergoing. So really listening to our aches and pains, not just as signs of our aging, but also signs of maybe things for us to pay attention to. How can we stretch in a certain way? What kind of physical activity can I do to address this? Health and wellness are the link between our mental health and our physical health is actually very real and very present, and I think we're seeing that more and more today. We have things like cycling has become such an even bigger cultural thing during the pandemic. Many people have started doing physical challenges during the pandemic. I think this is all partly a result also of being aware of how our body can affect our mental health. And it's really ironic, no? Because when we look at the points that Dr. Hani mentioned, the pandemic has really been a double-edged sword in the sense na it is one of the greatest stressors and causers of our mental health conditions, especially our anxiety and our depression. But it was also the situation that helped us to become more aware of our mental health or the state of our mental health. Parang what an ironic situation that the thing that causes us the most stress is also the thing that puts us in a position to identify why are we stressed and even identify things that we did not realize were bothering us in the past and have now carried on and maybe even become more concentrated now during the time of the pandemic. Oh, yeah. Oh, so Doctora, yes, you are in. We see your video pinned here po, but we cannot see your face. I think the camera is facing front rather than facing your...
Sorry.
Ayan. Oh, there you're there pala, Doctora. You Hello.
Wait, let me check again.
There we
Better?
are. There we are.
Is it okay?
So
thank you.
we're just waiting for your video na lang po.
Okay. The video.
Yes. So we hear you fine. You're fine. We just need you to turn on your video po so that we can see your lovely face.
Oh, it's not on. Oh my God.
It I think it turned off quickly. Don't worry. We are willing to wait because we want to hear what you have to say. There you are. Hello, Doctora.
Hi.
Hi,
Oh, thank God.
Thank you again
Digital
for your amazing talk. What a great talk and what a lovely presentation you gave.
Thank you, Claudio. I just want to say that you excellent summary and takeaway. It's so right on. Thank you so much. And you said something about social media being more open, more conversations. I think it's very, very important. It's a very excellent point. I don't want to miss it. That's why I'm saying it again. That in social media, we also need to be honest and open and talk
totally
more
agree.
with each other
I
in an
totally
authentic
agree.
way. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Surely.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
Doctora, wow, we're getting flooded now with questions.
Okay.
So
Okay,
let
okay.
me get right into it.
Okay.
So first, we have a question here that says, I've been working from home since before the pandemic. I used to get my me time when the kids would go to school and my husband would go to work. But when the
Yes.
pandemic hit, everybody was home and everything started to happen all at the same time. We don't have helpers, so we do things ourselves. And actually, it's more like I do 90% of the housework.
I can say
And
yes.
it is tiring. There is a sense of satisfaction, but in reality, I'm burnt out. And as selfish as it sounds, I wish my family would ask how I am. My real question is, how do I let my family know that I'm not feeling okay?
Wow, that's a very, very good question. I think most people, most women I know, mothers, are asking that in their mind. So thank you for bringing it out. It's so important, but not really brought out. No? First, because of the pandemic, you don't have time for yourself anymore because everybody's home. Whereas before, when they left, you had time for yourself physically. I mean, you already had it. You didn't have to ask for it. When the pandemic came, they were all home and you don't have it automatically or physically because it's not, they don't leave the house anymore. So the house is full of everybody there. And the most important thing there is that maybe the other members of the family are not aware that they are already depending on you to do most of the stuff, most of the house stuff, everything. And you automatically, as women, most women, I am one of them, are brought up in our culture to make salon. No, we almost automatically take care of things even without being told.
Mm-hmm.
I have a chapter on that in one of my books. I call it the taga-salon. I mean, how, parang automatically we take on the responsibility of taking care of everyone. And I think even when I was looking at that in my own experience, I had to write about it because I realized it's so common. And sometimes when we even tell them, wait a minute, I need to rest, we feel guilty. We feel that we don't have the right to say it. We cannot even say to them, wait a minute, can I have my own time? This is a very important, I hope people are listening, that this is very important for the mothers in the house, the parents, the mothers, the women, to be able to have their own time. So I think, and their own time for everybody listening, and for you, especially since you're the one who is suffering through this, as I know I've done that before, and sometimes lapse into it even now in my old age. But I think first we have to change our mindset before we can change their mindset. I think we have to change our mindset and know that we cannot take care of others if we don't take care of ourselves first. That is even, a spiritual thing. I mean, to take care of yourself is your responsibility to the world, to your family, to your God. It's your responsibility to be able to take care of your needs. And the situation is so hard because when you say, I need time, it's such a big thing. But I also realize it's human nature, and I've suffered through this myself, that when you're doing everything and you're efficient and you seem to be doing it well, human nature is that they take you for granted. That's a very, very common thing.
Wow.
When you're always available, you're always there, people tend to take you for granted. I realize that's human nature, and you cannot allow it to happen because you're needing it, have to be the one to initiate the change in that family.
Mm-hmm.
We have to initiate the change because they are not aware. They're just happy because we're doing everything. They think it's okay. So I think it's important to talk to them. Maybe you can talk casually and say, I need to talk to you guys. I mean, children and the father. I need to really talk to you. I need your help. You can do it. You can say it that way, not in a way that's sort of threatening to them, but I need your help in order for us to have a better time together as a family. If you can say that, then you already got their ear, and will be able to listen. Can I tell you things that are already inside me? Can we have during dinner or whatever? Set the time. Don't just say it because it won't happen. Set the time, maybe tonight or tomorrow morning or whatever time. Set it and see that people are available. If not, you adjust it and people are available. If you change your own mindset that it is your responsibility to take care of yourself, it will be easier to tell them that, hey, wait, I don't think I can sustain this anymore. Parang hindi ko na kaya burnout na ako. I need the help of everybody. Let's be one family and help each other. If you even say that, I think they will open to the idea that they will be able to help. And when you say it in a way that empowers them, they can help. Because sometimes there's another thing that we do when we're so good at doing things, we think that other people cannot do it as well. So if they do it parang hindi maganda or they do it sloppily, so I'll do it na lang. It's easy to fall back into that, but that's a dangerous, dangerous place to be, because then people will just assume that you will be the one to take care of things. That's what's happening now. There's an assumption, there's a comfortable place for everyone, but not for you. But you are the center of your family, so you cannot afford. You're the anchor, so you cannot afford to drown. I mean, the anchor drowns, but you cannot afford to. You cannot afford to burn out.
Yes.
So it's even, if you look at that, it's even an obligation to rest. I read a book, a very good person, a woman who was also doing a lot of church work. It was really satisfying, fulfilling, spiritually growing. But then one day she just couldn't do anything anymore because she burnt out. So she wrote a book that says, the title of the book is When God Tells You to Rest. So remember that rest is essential. It's a moral obligation. All great religions prescribe rest. For the Catholic, Judeo-Christian, Jesus did not just rest on the last day. He rested, and there's a crowd that was gathering, and he went up the mountain to be solid, to be out of the crowd and rest, be quiet, and not be bombarded by so many people's needs. The Buddha rests almost all the time. So I think if we change our mindset and we are really totally convinced that we need to rest in order to sustain our family life, in order to take care of our children, in order to take care of our husband, children, household help, if we have that mindset, we will be able to tell them that, hey, I need to tell you something because I need your help. I want our family to be more lighter, to be happier, and I need your help. When you tell people that you need their help, it engages them, it doesn't threaten them, and it also empowers them. Because underneath that message, you're saying, you can help me. You have the ability and the capacity to help me. So I think that's the first thing. It's good that you brought it out because it's hard to start it. But I think changing the mindset and them saying it that way, I think it will change. People are ready to help. They may just, one child, a young one, may be able to do something like, to clean the kitchen. Pick up the dishes and bring them to the sink, and somebody can do, that kind of thing. And you can also, one thing that helps, you can also schedule time together, time by yourself, time together, time alone, because family members should not be together all the time. It's not realistic, will cause conflict. So you can also assign roles, household chores that are appropriate for the age of the people, the children. And the interesting thing, they feel more fulfilled too. They also feel better about themselves because they are healthy. One of the cardinal rules that help promote mental health is to be able to give to others and to help others, and that's been proven already by neuroscience studies. So in asking them, you're giving them a chance to feel good about themselves. You're giving them a chance to feel that they can do things, and you're not the only one who can do things. I think with that mindset, it's almost like a must for us to tell them this and talk to them. I hope that answered the question, Claudio.
I'm fairly certain it did, Doctora. It's an impressive sentiment to think that to alleviate yourself of the burden that you're carrying in terms of mental struggle, you empower others around you to help you carry the burden. What a strong sentiment. I would like to thank everybody in the comments who are also responding to the questions by sharing your own insights. That's extremely valuable to this conversation. So please keep those coming as well as the questions.
Nice.
Okay, Doctora, here we have another one. Can engaging in sports also contribute to mental balance?
Wow, very definitely. In fact, I was not able to mention it. I think Claudia mentioned it, that we need to move our bodies. No? We need to have a physical exercise, a physical ritual. Okay, people run, some go biking, some swim. That I know some people who swim. For me, because maybe of my age, I walk every single day for 30 minutes. Before I stretch first my body, standing up, and then I stretch every muscle lying down, and then I meditate for 10 minutes, and then I walk for 30 minutes every single day wherever I am. If before, even when I was traveling, I was in Istanbul in a small room, I walked around the table. So move your body, and sports is one of the most important elements to promote good mental health. So maybe if you can engage in a sport that you like, that suits you. And the sports is not just for mental health, it's for so much joy that you get out of a certain sport that you like. I used to play tennis competitively. And for me, that was one of the greatest, not just ways of surviving, but joyful moments. So when you run, when you bike, you experience joyful moments. When you walk, you see the blue sky, you see the trees, whatever is around you. And it becomes not just a way to be mentally healthy physically, but a joyful experience. Find joy in that physical activity that you will choose. And it will be 1,000-fold. It will really help you bring, your mental health to a really good point. Thank you for that question. I hope everybody sees that and gets that point.
Well, Doctora, I think you're more consistent pa with your exercise than I am.
Okay.
I'm surprised to hear that you were a competitive tennis player. That oddly fits your personality to a key.
Those were the days. Okay. Yeah.
So we have another one,
Yes.
and I'm actually
Yes.
also interested in this because I have a niece and she is addicted to her iPad. How do we introduce digital detox for teens?
For teens, yeah, that's one of the hardest things, no? Because first of all, we know that almost every teen, or even some old people I know my age, are addicted to the gadget. My age maybe is the drama, is the Facebook, is the Korean drama, whatever. But for the teens, it's more than that, because when I talk to them, they say that's their means of communicating. The hardest thing that happened during the pandemic is, before the pandemic, we were already giving talks about how to limit the time that your children, your teens are with their gadgets. And it was not easy, but it was easier. Then the pandemic came, and what they have only in terms of doing schoolwork, in terms of communicating and all their needs, is the gadget, the digital thing. No? So how do we introduce it? I think there are so many. Do you know that there are so many neuroscience studies on the impact of social media? I'm not sure. One of the ways, depending on the age of the children or the family, is just when you're talking in the let's say at dinner, before you do any say, okay, limit your, can say it 100 times, limit your time. We can say it 1,000,000 times, but they might not. No? So start. Go back first and say, let's say you're in the dinner table. You can say, and this is true, that one of the things that social media and digital gadgets have led to is distractibility. People now have a harder time focusing. We are easily distracted, and this is already a hard science, neuroscience finding, because it does something to our brain. It does something to the connections in our brain. Neurologically sound. The statement is neurologically sound. My husband's a neurologist and very much into this. It's really causing us to be easily distracted, not just association, but cause. No. So first, I think before we say to the teens that you should limit your digital time. Everybody tells them that. But if the teens, they're able to understand reason. No? If they're able to understand why, they have to know why. I don't think they will just limit it. They have heard it 1,000 times, but what's wrong with it? So I think if we can start by discussing these findings and in a way that's really informative, because I think people should discuss it, no? Because even adults get distracted. Personally, in my old age, I fixed my bed here, and I used to do it, until it's finished. Now I'm in the middle of fixing my bed, and I find myself doing something in the iPhone or what. Let's wait a minute. Whoops, I didn't finish fixing my bed. Honestly, it's so real, no?
Yeah.
So, and then it affects your schoolwork. Because if you're easily distracted, I've seen this in so many teens who are smart. When they're easily distracted, their concentration, their focus, their attention to what they're doing is so much affected. So first, we know why. We are sure that we need to limit, and we know the reason. That's most important. And then we can ask the teens, okay, let us look at your typical day. I did this with one person, no? With one teen. I said, you wake up at what time? So he wrote it down. He woke up at, I think, 10 o'clock or something. Anyway, woke up and then 11. Put everything, no judgment. I said, just put everything. What's your typical day? Just facts, no, nothing. Just, I did this. I went to the bathroom. I ate, whatever you're doing. Do you know what happened? He found out that his time, and he didn't know this until he wrote it down. Most of his time was spent watching YouTube. And he found out for himself, by writing down what he did the whole day, the typical day. He said, oh my God, I didn't even know time passed. So I didn't know that I was spending so much time. I knew I was doing a lot of work, but I didn't realize how much time I was spending watching YouTube. And I know that because, it's really hard to stop watching YouTube. So it's really that, no, not just telling them, but making them know the reason, giving them a concrete data on how they see themselves also as surprised that they're also doing that, because people don't know that how much they're spending time their gadgets, even the adults. So that's one. And then you ask them, and then when there's a typical day, you ask them, what is the best time to block? Not a very long time, maybe 30 minutes here. Just start, 30 minutes there or 1 hour. I don't know. It's up to the situation you're in. It's up to the workload. But what I'm saying is reserve time where they will take breaks. Morning or evening. And just follow it. If they understand why they need to do it and the effect on them and how they can help themselves, they will be willing to do it. But if they just know that you're a parent telling them to limit, it might not have any impact on them. So and it's realistic, it's doable, because you're just saying, okay, take 30 minutes here after lunch, maybe instead of starting your 1:30. I don't know, it depends on the school schedule, but you can find it. You start, for example, you start at 1:30 and you finish at 1 to 1:30. Just put the gadget away. Actually, it's doable. But you have to have all those ingredients. You have to know why. You have to see what's the realistic time to block off, and then write it down so that it's very clear for all you and your team, and you are doing it cooperatively because they know that it's good for them too, that they need to do it for their own mental health, for their own brain, the health of their brain. It's really a biological, neurological thing already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe, Doctor, adding to that, it could be a family detox, di ba? Baka doing it as a family could be effective as well. Kahit 30 minutes lang, di ba?
Galing, ang galing.
Yeah,
Yes.
tayo as a family, we will not use or touch our devices. Maybe we'll stay downstairs, we'll talk, or we'll stay outside. Kahit we don't talk, we just we stay away from the devices.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. That's really, add to that. That's wonderful. I think that will be more effective. That's really, it's already doing it together.
Yeah,
Thank
I agree.
you. Thank
So
you.
here we have many more questions. I
Okay,
hope that we can
go.
cover most of them. So Doctora Carandang, may I know how to respond instead of react?
Okay. Yeah. Good. That's mindfulness practice that I'm still practicing now because it can never make it perfect. Okay. Mindfulness also teaches you, as an aside, to be not perfect. Okay. Not so. In other words, we will practice. So how do you respond and not react? Okay. We know that when you react, there is something says somebody does something, you have an emotion right away, which is normal, no? Because the brain, the part of the brain that reacts instantly is the emotional brain, and that's a neurological fact. No? So therefore, you know that when somebody tells you something or does something, you react, you become emotional. Okay, but if when you're emotional and then you act, that means you are reacting, you're impulsive, then you don't pause, that's reacting. And this is so important for parents, and I've learned this because that's one of the hardest things to do for parents is not to react. For example, stop doing that, like, why you say that? It's so easy, so human to just react and say things that later on you regret because you reacted. But to respond, you have to be aware. Okay, oh my son, for example, is going around and around, and he's so noisy and everything. Oh, what's happening now? I think I wanna shout at him. I really want to shout at him. You could say to yourself, I'm very angry. I want to shout at him. Say it to yourself. That's pausing. Instead of scolding him right away, tell yourself, what's happening to me? I want to squeeze his neck, really, to send him out of his house. You can say that to yourself, but you don't, for yourself, so that you release it. When you say it, the momentum of the reactivity, the intensity of the emotion will not lead you to just say anything or do anything that is not thought out. So when you pause, you're able to collect yourself and you're able to do a response that is of higher quality, a better response than when you react. But remember that to react is normal. It's how our brain is constructed. So this will be like a practice. No? So when you're reacting already, catch yourself. And later on, you will catch yourself before you react. But it's a practice that you just have to keep doing. That's why it's called practice. It also means that you can never be perfect. Because my problem here is when I tell this to people and then they didn't do it, they feel so bad about themselves. No, mindfulness teaches you that your goal is to be not perfect. Okay? That is why it's called practice. You practice it. I've been practicing for 20 years. I still slip. And then I be kind to yourself. Oops, I didn't do it well. Maybe tomorrow. Don't say, oh no, I can't do it because I'm so reactive. That one, judging yourself. That will make you not able to do it and make you feel bad about yourself. That's also when you are practicing, you also are being kind to yourself, but you are practicing. You are not being impulsive. Remember, impulsivity is a poison. Can be a person who says things that are so painful and then, hindi mo na siya mabawi kasi nadinig na, especially children, no? Especially a parent. The easiest people to be targets of our anger, our disappointment, our frustration are our children.
Yeah.
They're the easiest target, or maybe our children and maybe the dog. But I think, but you know what I noticed? People who, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I noticed it when walking, that when people are walking with their dogs, they obey the dogs and they tune into their dogs and very kind to their dogs. They walk slowly when the dog walks slowly. But if that's a child, hey, come on, faster, faster. Why are you so slow? Be aware. I notice it all the time. I said, Mom, better be a dog. They're not kinder to the dog than to the child. Because, the dog, of course, doesn't cause more trouble, and etc. But just be aware. Just be aware.
The dog doesn't talk back.
Right, correct. Doesn't talk back, doesn't rebel. And so it's easier. But your awareness will be the first step to be mindful. The awareness. I'm very angry already. Okay, I'm angry. In anger management, I don't know. baka I'm not answering some questions. Maybe I'm answering others, because there's such a thing as anger management, like executives, men, and fathers who suddenly explode and all that. In anger management, the first thing we do is look at the point where you explode, or even parents. This is all for all parents. This is important. No? So when do I explode and really shout and really feel intense anger and act it out? Okay, plot it on here. No, okay. What happens in your body before that? My heart beats faster, and I'm getting, antsy and like that. Okay, so this one guy, I'll just focus on one because there are many executives who've been doing this, and parents and fathers, not just mothers, who have been, have this outbursts that frighten the whole family, and I'm dealing with that now. So we pinpoint the point of no return, I call, which is you are irrational. When you reach that point, you see red, you cannot stop it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can stop you, like a child who's playing the taknong. Mm-hmm. So we have that point. So what happens to your body before you reach that point? My heart beats faster and I'm getting sweaty. Okay, let's stop there. When you're starting to feel those sensations in your body, you pause and you do something. So some people go to the CR and wash their hands. Some just breathe heavily. Some walk a little few steps. One parent, one father, his way of stopping, because the anger has its own momentum. Okay, so when the anger starts and you don't stop it, it starts to build up until you get to the point where it's a point of no return. You have an outburst already, and you regret it. So before that, you identify the bodily signs, and then you do something to interrupt the momentum. So this particular guy was able to do, cannot do it myself, but click his finger like this, and that click makes him pause or makes him aware, and he breathes, and it doesn't go to the point of no return. Mm-hmm. You can handle it that way, by paying attention. The body, again, here is most important. I'm sure you're breathing heavier, your heart is beating faster. There's no way that your body is not have any reaction. Identify it and find a way to stop the momentum. And if you keep practicing, you will not anymore have that outburst, or you have it less and less, because you're handling the emotion. Most of it usually is anger, which has its own momentum and intensity. You are now have more power over it, whereas before it had power over you. So that's very important. I think that's okay.
Thank you for that.
I think I answered that.
Yeah. I think that can apply to many situations, not just with our children, but in any stressful or high anxiety situation or any high emotion situation that can apply.
Yes.
So here we have quite a few more questions.
Okay.
What do you do when the person suffering from a mental health concern angrily resists attempts at a conversation?
Wow, yeah, that's hard.
So parang the other way around naman.
The other person whom you know is suffering from mental health problem is angry when you bring it up. No? Okay, yeah. Let's start with some compassion exercise, no? Because it's not easy to approach a person with a mental health problem to begin with. Now, this person has a mental health problem. You almost like if you touch him, you go approach him or ask him anything, he has that anger already. Now, I think let's start with an understanding of the anger, because anger is always the go-to, most of the time, the go-to emotion of people, especially men. Sorry, you can disclaim this, especially men, if they are feeling vulnerable, they are feeling not in control, or they're feeling fearful. The vulnerability almost automatically leads to anger, because anger gives them power. Okay? So when you understand that, for example, mental health problem na nga, but even that anger of that person with the mental health problem is also underlying that anger is probably a lot of fear, no? Fear of being vulnerable. fear, because when most men, when they are vulnerable and they're not in control and they're fearful, their instant go-to emotion is anger. Because vulnerability makes you feel powerless, less powerful. Anger makes you feel powerful. There's so many cases of fathers just exploding, the leaders, bosses just exploding because they're not aware. So how do you approach that person? I think you approach that person first without approaching the problem. Maybe can you have an activity with the person? Does he like to walk? I don't know. Find something that the person likes to do and see if you can join without talking about that thing that will make him explode first. In other words, be friend. Make him comfortable being with you. Make him know that you're a safe person, because people with mental health problems, especially the anger, whom they cover up with anger, are usually very suspicious. No? They don't trust you. They don't think that you can be a friend, or that you can be with them without them feeling awkward, or there's something wrong with them. If you make them feel that you are a judgmental person, they will not open up. But I think if you can just be with that person to take a walk, or maybe to have merienda, I don't know, find an activity where you will just be with. Don't do anything. Don't judge. Don't tell him to stop. Don't tell him to go, whatever. Don't tell him to do anything. Just be there. Be present with that person. Do you know that presence is one of the most healing things that you can give to anyone? Your true presence is healing already. First thing to do is be with. And just be with totally, without judgment. Without telling him or her what to do. Without saying that this is good, this is bad, nothing. Just be with. May I walk with you? Can I sit with you for a while? Why do you want to sit with me? I nothing. I just want to sit with you. I just like it. Don't give too many reasons, too many, explanations, etc. Those things will not work, because he already doesn't want to talk about it. Doesn't want you to even ask. So you just sincerely be with the person, but with your compassion. Because sometimes you'll be with the person, but you're so angry. Why is this person like this? Blah, blah, blah. Maka-communicate yun eh.
Yeah.
Mapi-feel niya yun eh.
Through
They're
body
usually-
language pa lang, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they're sensitive to those kinds of emotions.
Yeah.
Usually, extremely sensitive. So you be sincere about it. How can you be sincere? By understanding that the anger comes from a feeling of vulnerability or feeling lost. Then you'll have more compassion. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk who was my teacher, there's a very interesting metaphor which you might want to. Many people have said that was effective. That person, or it may be an angry father, or that person with a mental health problem who's angry, you can have a scenario where you see that person is a 5-year-old boy, okay, who is struggling, having a lot of difficulty doing things, being competent, etc. Then when you picture that in your mind, that scenario, your compassion starts to really rise and you become more understanding. You have to begin with a sincere, compassionate, understanding heart, because whatever you feel will communicate to that person. And then be with in a compassionate way, be with the person. It's very doable. It's doable. I've seen people who have been able to do it. Some of them have to visualize seeing that angry, powerful, scary person is a 5-year-old boy who's lost and who's frustrated, and it helps them to bring up that compassionate feeling. So I think that's one way to approach that. No?
Yeah. For all we know, the reason that person reacts so violently is because they lack that presence from somebody in their life already.
Exactly.
So that's what we're providing them.
Exactly. That presence is almost magical. Yes.
Wow.
It's healing.
Okay. This is great. These are things that we don't even realize, the small things that can change the way that we
Yes.
approach everyday situations.
Very good point, Claudio, because I have a book called Presence, no? Where how presence is a radical action. Your total presence is already enough to make a person feel worthy. Especially then when you listen, you give that person, listen, I mean, with all your being, not listen and nagsa cellphone, nag-listen looking like that,
Yes,
but
yeah.
truly listen.
Yes.
Yung listen, ha? Totoong listen. You're giving the person you're listening to a very important basic psychological message, which fulfills a most basic psychological need. You're telling that person without saying that you matter. You
Yes.
are an important person. You are a worthy person
Yes.
by just being present without judgment. Very powerful.
Yeah. Wow.
It's very-
Thank you for that, Doctora. Okay, so we have a few more here.
Sure.
Now this one, actually, this seems like a bit of a heavy question, but I'm sure we're all interested to hear the answer to this. When would you be able to stop being kind and not being right? Or I think rather, when do you draw the line between being kind over being right if you think you're being abused? And a
Yes.
follow-up to that is, how can you be kind when you already know that there is a side of abuse?
Oh, okay. Wait. The first one first, because it's different from the second.
Yes, yes.
Actually, yeah. Okay. I wrote the book, called The Courage to Be Kind. Because when you are kind, most of the time, people tend to abuse you, tend to use you, tend to take you for granted. So it's hard to say I will always be kind, because it's natural that people tend to exploit you. Okay, that's normal. But I think first, the rule is you have to set the limits. Set limits. Let's say this person has you 3 times mo na pinagbigyan, humihingi pa. You have to be able to set the limits, because that's also the first rule. Be kind to yourself. So when somebody's asking you to do something and you want to be kind, but you're burnt out, you're very tired, no? So say, can we do that another time, because I'm not feeling very good today. It's also learning to say a high quality no. A high quality no is a no that is thought out. You evaluate first. Because this example is very common. No? Somebody, a good friend who has a problem, calls you at 11:30 in the evening and you're so tired. So what do? You listen and you listen. But in your mind, you're saying, ano naman ito? Hindi naman considerate ito na 11:30 tumatawag in your mind. But you're listening. So there's, it's not kind of like a real kindness,
Yeah.
but also maybe that's not the time to be kind because you're tired. Time to take care of yourself. So you can say, oh, I'd really love to hear you talaga, but right now I'm not really in a good position because there's so many things happened today. I'm really, really burnt out and tired.
Yeah.
You need to have a ability to say a high quality no. You have evaluated the situation and you know that your body is already screaming for rest. Don't do it. You will be surprised that if you don't do it, the person will understand. I'm so surprised that the people whom you say no to understand, because we're afraid they might get disappointed, they might get angry, they might not approach us anymore, they might not like us, etc. So it's hard to set limits. But so the first rule of being kind is kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. So when you're being kind to another person, it's almost like an overflow of you being kind to yourself. And when you feel that you're being exploited, hold that feeling, be aware, and say it to yourself. I feel I'm being abused here already. Say it to yourself. And then find a way to say no in a way that's not rejecting. It's an art that we have to learn as Filipinos to say no.
Yeah.
It's very hard for us to say no. We say yes when we mean no. We're afraid to hurt, nasaktan ng loob, mga ganon-ganon. Actually, it's essential. to be able to say no for your own mental health.
That's true. I think my girlfriend could learn a lot from you, Doctora. She's in law school and says yes too often and is spread too thin sometimes.
There you go. Yeah. And what happens? You could get sick.
Yep.
You'll feel angry. You'll feel used. Listen to those feelings. Listen always. This will always be your body telling you that. And don't disregard those feelings. They are, again, your friend telling you it's time to, even just for today. Maybe you can do it tomorrow. You're still being kind, but don't have to do it right now or do it 2 days from now. You know, you'll be surprised that people are accepting of that. They are. I'm so surprised myself. I canceled a nationwide talk, which I made a mistake of saying yes to, but I was so tired. I postponed it. I actually canceled it. And they understood because I was so like guilty. I mean, you know. But I said, okay, this is the time to practice self-kindness. And whatever happens, you have to, you know, walk your talk. Okay.
Yes, commit,
so
yes.
I said, I'm sorry. I'm so burning out now because of too many things that I've been doing. I hope you understand I can't do it this time. If you really need to do it, can we postpone it or can we get somebody else? Carandang, we understand. Wow, okay. So they postponed it. And so it's not like, you know, the end of the world. But you're right, you can be exploited. Listen to that feeling. You will have it. I felt that with a very good friend that I held for 30 years. And then I felt, after a while, I felt, teka muna, I think I'm being used. So I paid attention to my own feeling and took care of it. And did not relate for some time. Gave a reason, I have to do my whatever this is, and I cannot be talking to you for this period of time. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So moving on to the next question.
Yes.
We have so if a person having depression, manifesting, writing letters, hurting themselves, saying goodbyes, what can we do to help that person? And how do we tell the difference between a genuine a person genuinely having suicidal thoughts or just making threats?
Yeah. Okay. That's such a difficult thing to do, not draw the line. But there's a rule that if you're in doubt whether that person is meaning what she's saying about depression and suicide, go or make a mistake in doing something rather than not doing.
Yeah. Okay.
So because what will you lose? He might get mad at you, but what will you lose if you don't do something? That is really going to be so big, no? That you will lose something. You might get embarrassed, she might be angry or whatever, but you did something. Because the rule also is that when there is a person who is saying those things, who is being depressed, writing notes and saying that, you know, goodbye, etc., pay attention. Even if that person doesn't want you to pay, if that's your friend, talk to him, talk to her. If that's not your friend, find a person who's a friend that can talk to that person. In other words, do something. It's better to make a mistake in doing what you need to do rather than and then make a mistake in not doing, because this has happened.
Yes. Yeah.
And the worst thing will happen, you know, the person could do it because there is no science tell you the second that the person decides not to do or to do it. There's no science. But the rule is, most important thing is you pay attention. If you remember this case of, this is a popular case that I can talk about because it was in the media. It was a 15-year-old stage actress on TV. Anyway, she was very good actress, bubbly and all that. But anyway, one day she was cutting. But she said to her mom, you know, that's nothing. I'm just cutting. That's just, you know, play lang yan, whatever. She denied it. So anyway, so the story, make the long story short, she killed herself. And she was so bubbly and all that the mom was totally, totally shocked because there was no sign that she could see from the girl that she would do that. She was bubbly and a good actress and everything. But cutting oneself is a sign. You don't dismiss a child who's cutting. You don't dismiss that as nothing, as a game. No, no way.
Yeah.
Pay attention. But what's important here is when they looked at her journal, there was one statement there that said, "I wish you noticed."
Oh.
Wow,
my.
how painful, no?
Yeah.
That's my point. Even if you said got angry with her and you noticed, her
Yeah.
sentence was, "I wish you had noticed."
Yeah.
So notice. I mean, don't make a mistake on the side of ignoring
Mhm.
and not doing anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a good rule of thumb to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you
so-
get embarrassed, it's worth it.
Yes, I totally agree. I
Mhm.
totally agree. Yes. Better to err on the side of caution.
Yes.
So we have a few more here. Doctora, does
Okay.
personality play a role in mental health? For example, MBTI.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes. For example, in the past, in the pandemic, the adolescents I worked with, they were sisters. Just an example, no? There were sisters. Actually, there were just two sisters in the whole. They had only two children. So the pandemic came, and one of them was an introvert. MBTI kasi, no? Well, maybe you can explain Myers-Briggs MBT. I forgot that. No? Inventory. Trait in whatever inventory, I forgot that. But anyway, it says whether introvert or extrovert,
Extrovert,
you
mhm.
think and or you feel, etc. No, it's just for the people, general people. So one of the scales there is introversion and extroversion. I think that's very common knowledge. You might say I'm an extrovert because I like to go out, socialize, and I get energy from relating to people. I get my energy by relating to others. If you're an introvert, you can be on your own comfortably and not need so much to relate to other people. You still need, but not as much. No? So they were two sisters. The pandemic came, and then the introvert was able to do a lot of community work, helping girls who were in the center, things like that. She was very, very creative and very, very helpful. No, she was able to do that. But the other one was an extrovert. So she told me, I can't really, this is too much for me that I can't see my friends. And I'm really getting down because my sister's an introvert. I think it's really okay for her. But for me, it's not okay at all. I'm an extrovert. I need energy. I need to relate. It was very difficult because there was a lockdown. So we started with, okay, try to relate virtually first. I know that's not satisfying, but we also found time, like a Saturday morning or afternoon when they could go to the park, something safe, but opportunity to connect and relate. Oops.
Oh, sorry.
I think hindi na
Can,
mute.
can we please ask everybody to mute so that we can hear Doctora clearly? Excuse me.
Okay.
Here we go.
There, okay.
Okay.
So the extra, that happens. The
That does
introvert, the introvert was able to adjust, not fully, but very much better than the extrovert. So those affect us also. Yes. So what to do with that? First, be aware that I am more of this than that. So I'll do something to satisfy that part of me. Or I will ask somebody to help me so that I can pay attention and do something for that part of me that's more like an introvert or an extrovert. Yeah, it helps. It helps to know those things about yourself because most important, most basic of everything we're talking about is self-awareness. You know that, no?
Yes.
But you go beyond self-awareness and own what you are feeling, own what you are experiencing.
Yeah.
Own it. Don't project it to others. No? You own it. And once you own it, you can have more handle. on it. Because if your fear is so strong and you don't own it, it handles you. But if you own it, you handle it. So this the power there, no? The shift of power is important. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Here,
Yes.
back to the topic of being kind and being right.
Yes.
How do we balance being kind and being right? I want the kids to do what should be done, but I don't want to nag them.
Oh, okay. How do we balance being kind and being right? Okay. As a parent, first be aware or know if you are really right. Okay, I mean, find out if you are really right. Okay, if what you're doing is really right or good for them. Okay, that's the basic, syempre. Okay, let's say you are right. But how do you implement it? Okay, that's when also your mindfulness practice comes in, because when you're right and you nag, you're also being reactive. No, you also it's almost important to impossible to be kind. So sometimes when you're right and the other person is wrong, it's so difficult to be kind.
Yes.
Because the most easy thing to do is to prove that you are right.
Yes.
So, okay, let's just say you are right, presume. But please find out first if what you're doing is right. Okay, and let's
You're
say you're
actually
right.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm actually right. But these kids are so rowdy, they're shouting. I mean, they're just, intolerable. Okay, so how do I be? I want to be right, but I don't want to be unkind. Okay, so it's the how now. How do I tell them that I don't like what they're doing in a way that I know I'm right, but I can also be kind? Because in this situation, you don't have to choose. Actually, some situations you have to, but here we say that the rift between siblings, that's hard, no? You have, or between
Yes,
between husband and wife. But here it seems like you can do both. So I'm right. They should not be doing what they're doing. But how do I do it in a way that's not unkind or that's not insulting?
Right.
It can be done. So you can say, you use yourself, I'm feeling really, I cannot really, my ears are hurting and all that. You can tell them what you are feeling first, because otherwise you tell them, stop that, then they will not stop. So you will say, stop that 100 times, but they will not stop. So you get more angry, they get more rowdy, and you get more frustrated, and nothing is accomplished.
Goes back to
Except
responding and reacting.
Yes, exactly. And you're feeling bad. Okay. So if you're aware that even if you're right, but you still have to be kind, you can just say it in a way that is kind but effective. I give you an example of my own experience with I have three boys. Okay, and so that's not easy because I kind of disciplined them myself because my husband's a doctor and so busy. I was very firm, but I learned this because one time there was a rule. I forget what the rule was. Don't go out on a certain day or something. And they knew. One thing about discipline is you have to be very, very clear. So you have the right to impose. Okay. It was very clear that I forget. Anyway, don't go out on a Sunday. Maybe let's just say that's the one. So one of them said, Mom, may I go out tonight? It's a Sunday. No? So I said, you know the rule. So I said, come near me. Put your ear near my mouth. I said, in a whisper, I said, absolutely not. Very soft, but very firm. And he said, okay, Mom. Okay. It goes like that. You don't have to shout. My point is you don't have to shout. In fact, when you say it quietly, but with so much conviction, you are more effective. And you are even not unkind.
Yes.
It's even a kinder way, but also you also feel better about yourself.
Yes.
That's the other thing.
Okay.
So
you for
maybe
that.
I hope I answered that.
I think you did. We have room for maybe one or two more questions.
Sure.
So, if we can actually, maybe you can help us. You can answer this one question briefly because it's more of a definition based. Can you please differentiate depression from anxiety?
Oh, okay. Okay. Anxiety is a more active emotion, no? Meaning you are more hyper. Your body is more hyper. It's more aroused. More, arousal, no? Hyper arousal is part of anxiety. In depression, sometimes you are numb. Depression is not sadness. Depression is having no feeling. Maybe it's sadness, but extreme sadness. But it could also be that you have no feeling, you have no gana, you have don't take pleasure in anything. You're not even angry actively, but you're just like blah. You know, you're just like no feeling, nothing, no excitement, no joy, no sadness, nothing. But sadness that is present for a long time can also lead to depression if you don't do anything about it. But anxiety is more active, more aroused. Your hormones, your body is more aroused, more adrenaline, etc., and more hyper. Whereas depression is more down, less feeling, more parang nothing, blah, no joy, no pain. It's just sort of like a numb feeling.
Okay.
Walang gana to do anything. Walang energy to do anything. When you're anxious, you have energy. You might have a lot of energy when you're anxious, but when you're depressed, it's low energy. It's one of the differences.
That seems very clear cut.
Yeah.
So last question, I think we only have room for one more.
Okay.
So here we have, as a parent of a girl transitioning to becoming a teenager, there are just way too many things I need to be mindful about. And I would really like to try to do or to practice mindfulness with her. How do we introduce this to our kids who are distracted by so many things and listen to music or even, I guess, have hobbies that we do not understand?
Yeah, wow, that's hard. How to introduce mindfulness? Actually, mindfulness exercises, even for a kinder, have been very effective. But you cannot just introduce it when the child is involved, especially a teen, is involved in so many things and very, very active. No? Parang bigla. I think you have to start slowly. Maybe you can start with a mother I know started with just mindful walking together. So can you walk with me, or can we walk the dog together, or something like that? Do just as I mentioned earlier, kanina, you can start by just doing something together. It may not be walking. Some people just were drawing together or even watching a drama together, and you being there without judgment. So when you're there with her and you're totally present, you yourself are already practicing mindfulness. You can watch a movie mindfully because you're present and you're not going out and getting or whatever, getting something and
texting.
Texting, yeah, that's it. All texting when you're watching something, texting, looking at the Google to find out what the actress is, what blah blah, just getting more information about what the movie is all about, who produced it, and all that sort of thing. You are distracted.
Yes.
So you are not able to practice mindfulness, which means being present to the moment. You're doing when you're watching, as was said. What are you doing when you're drinking tea? When you're drinking tea, you're drinking tea. That's what you're doing. So that's mindfulness, no? Doing something mindfully present, totally present to what you're doing without distraction. If you can model that, of course, it's better if it's not watching anything. It's better if you can walk together or have merienda together. Maybe, I don't know what you're eating, like maybe some kind of a donut. I don't know, hindi pala healthy and anything that you like to eat. You want to eat together. So you eat together, but when you're eating, you don't sermon her. You don't talk about so many things. You just talk about, oh, this tastes good. You talk about what you're doing. When you do that, the hyperactivity of your teen, even without you saying anything, the body responds in a way that it kind of calms down.
Yeah.
But that's just the beginning, because there are many exercises you can do together, like breathing.
Yeah.
Walking mindfully, even for 20 minutes. Start with even 20 minutes. You walk, and then when you walk, you just say, or look at that dog, or look at the sky, or whatever, or you see anything that's passing by. You pay attention to it and invite her to pay attention with you when you're walking, or when she's saying something. When you're walking and you're talking and talking, she cannot say anything. No? But when you're walking and you're quiet, she may start to say something, and that can be the beginning of a mindful conversation. Okay. But then beyond that are many other things, because actually you should follow it up. You can follow it up with mindful practices. One of the things that has worked with some young people is mindful shower. So this very hyperactive stockbroker, very young and achieving and driven, etc., was burnt out, came to me, anyway, to make the long story short, no more time. He was burnt out. So I said, let's try a mindful exercise. Can you try mindful eating? No. I have to, okay, whatever. Mindful shower. Oh, wow. So he tried, this is a true story. He tried mindful showering. And even, for example, he was showering for 10 minutes. He showered for 20 and felt the water on his back, the shower drip, the soft, feeling soft and soft, smooth soap on his arm. Just that exercise changed his whole day. Because mindful exercises done twice change the quality of your day, and done often changes the quality of your life. So what happened to this guy was he got so refreshed by the shower. So then the next day he started not the next day, next week he started to brew his coffee and drink it and taste it and smell it and mindfully drink it. Those two things change his whole life, because people are saying, what happened to you? You're so nice to be with now. You're smiling. It was true. How he didn't know. Wow, it's true. People are approaching me now, and I'm teaching them. So he taught mindful shower to everybody he knew. But the thing is, he suddenly also, because of the opening of the space where you're not doing, started to be interested in plants. So he started cultivating plants, and that's a mindful. Gardening is a mindful exercise too. And then he started getting interested in wines. But anyway, the point was he became a very mindful, joyful person, and people got very interested in what he was doing. And so they became interested in him. I mean, he became like a person that would bring joy to people and will make people feel good. And they started to do the mindful shower. This is a group of young people. I think there are like 100 of them who are so driven, but no time. But they discovered this because of him.
Wow.
So you start simply, but then there are mindful practices. Actually, there are apps by yun, or there are sites where you can many also. But maybe it might. I don't know it when I'll do it or when people do it, will do it. But it's good to attend a mindfulness, maybe weekend or a day, just to see it in actual.
Like a retreat, yes.
Yes, like a retreat. Yeah, people are asking me to do that, but I still have to find a way time to be mindful.
Please let us know when that is. I would happily join that.
Oh, thank you. Okay, yes. Okay.
Thank you, Doctora, so much for taking the time to answer our questions and for taking the time today to join us.
Thank you.
So as we come to a close, I once again would like to thank you, Doctora Carandang. And we would like to let those know, I know we didn't get to read all of your questions, but you can email those questions to cm.oba416@gmail.com. It will be placed in the chat box po. So once again, that's cm.oba416@gmail.com. And I believe they'll also be sharing other ways that you can contact Dr. Honey directly, especially for any pressing concerns.
Yes.
So thank you very much. And thank you again, Doctora.
Thank you, Claudio, for the way you conducted this. It's wonderful.
Thank you for saying so. And so as we come to an end, we want to call on Miss Nancy Roman of Miriam's High School. She's the principal. We'd like to hear some closing remarks. Miss Nancy, take it away.
All right. Good morning, everyone. As we come to the end of this webinar, I would like to thank Dr. Hani Carandang for giving us her valuable inputs regarding mental health. It is indeed equally important to be aware of our own mental state, to be mindful, to take a break, breathe, relax, and practice self-care. Our heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Nini Falcon and the grade 9 parents for organizing this webinar. We also extend our thanks to the Family Council Executive Board headed by Mrs. Maros Peña for the support given to this worthy endeavor. Thank you all for gracing us with your parents. Thank you, Claudio, for your masterful MC today. Enjoy the rest of the day. Keep safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Huwag po kayo magsasawa sa amin.
Hindi. Matagal na tayong trabaho together.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Bye now.
Thank you again, Doctora. And so for the closing prayer, we would like to invite Miss Vanji de Guzman, grade 9 parent representative, to lead us in the closing.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to share the morning, to talk about difficulties we face nowadays. Thank you for the chance for us to understand each other. We pray for the courage to be kind to one another, especially in this time of uncertainty. Strengthen our faith so we can face trials that may come our way. Help us to find you in our weakness. Help us to see you in difficult times. Teach us how to be compassionate. Teach us how to sympathize. Teach us how to be kind in times of struggle. Teach us how to be human. Grant us the gift of empathy. Clear our minds and make us always ready to be instruments of love. And in our own suffering, send us the right instruments for our peace. Stay with us and never leave our side. This we ask you, most mighty name, Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Miriam of Nazareth, teach us your ways and lead us to Jesus.
So thank you again. So thank you once again to everybody that attended. Thank you to Dr. Carandang. And I hope that you took away something valuable from this talk. Remember to be mindful. Remember to respond, not to react. And remember that you have to be kind to yourself in order to be kind to others. Thank you, everybody. Have a happy weekend and enjoy your families.
Thank you,
Good day.
Claudio.
Thank you.